So you said that you don't want to do winter in Paris anymore?
I don't want to do winter in Paris anymore. It's just too gray. It's too gray. And, after 10 years in Paris, I recognize what I need for my life. As you get older, you recognize what your needs are. I need more sun.
Okay.
And so I have identified the months that I love to be in Paris.
Yes.
And I have identified the months that I don't want to be there.
Okay.
Okay. So what are the months you love being in Paris?
I love being in Paris, late spring and fall.
Okay. So
not just spring, not just spring, fall. She said late spring and fall.
Late spring and fall.
How are you planning on working that? Because you haven't, last time I checked, you had an apartment in Paris.
I do still have an apartment in Paris that I'm renting out.
Okay.
To an Exodus Summit girly.
Oh,
yes. The power of community.
The power of renting your apartment. Okay.
Yes. So I'm renting it out. And while she was there, I made the decision to be like, maybe I'll stay in California a bit longer because why not? And it just kind of worked out. She also needed a place without going through the rigmarole of trying to find a place in Paris. So it worked out.
Community. Look at that.
This is community. This is community. So she's there. And I'm like, well, you know what? I detest winters there. So why not let her stay and I can stay in California where we don't really have a winter.
So do you think this is going to be the blueprint for yourself moving forward the next few years?
Absolutely. My objective when I moved to Paris, I had 3 goals. Okay. One was to learn French, right? The second was to acquire citizenship. And the third was to buy a property. I got 2 down. I learned the French. I acquired the citizenship. I'm just waiting on my interview. My file was accepted. I just have to have my interview where they want to make sure that I can speak French. But for the most part, it's in the bag. And the purchase of the property, I can always do that, right? I don't necessarily have to be there to purchase the property. My thing was I wanted to secure a second passport for myself and learn French. And I did that. So 2 out of 3 ain't bad. So I think for my life going forward, I am going to have to establish myself in 2 places. I need to live in 2 places.
Okay. Good. Latrice, introduce yourself, please.
Okay. Hi, Exodus Summit girlies. My name is Latrice Shepherd. I am with Paris Chic Code. I've been a resident of Paris for the past 10 years, and I am so happy to be here with you ladies, sharing everything that I possibly can about my life abroad.
My name is Rashida Dow, and I am one of the co-founders of Exodus Summit. Welcome to our channel. Welcome to this conversation with Latrice. She, as always, she is going to give you what you need to know about Paris without the fluff, without the unnecessaries, without the lies. She's going to give it to you real. This is a Bay Area girly.
Oh, yes.
Give you the truth about the matter. And so I'm so excited to have her with us today. And I'm going to throw it over to my co-founder.
That's me. I'm Stephanie Perry. This is the 5th year of Exodus Summit. We are celebrating the 5th Exodus Summit happening online October 11th to 14th, 2024. Information will be in the description. We'll talk about it a little bit. But what Exodus Summit is Exodus Summit is a place for Black women and their families to learn how to move abroad. If you're at all interested in making a quick exit, or maybe not a quick exit, but hopefully a quick exit from the US to a new place, to a new country, Exodus Summit, you're in the right place, and Exodus Summit is the right place, the right thing for you. Make sure you subscribe to this channel and then stick around for this conversation. We're going to give you some resources. Latrice is going to give you some resources. You're going to, no matter what she said about the wintertime in Paris, you're going to fall in love with France when you hear her talking about it.
Oh, yes.
And we're going to talk about some other stuff as well. So stay here with us. Thank you. All right. So let's
say one thing. I just want to say, I remember the first Exodus Summit, and to see what it has become, I am just so proud of you guys. I'm so proud to be like an alumni of Exodus Summit. It is incredible to watch you 2 ladies. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. We are so excited because we've watched you develop at the same time too.
Yes.
She is now like, people say Hermes and they hear Latrice. Like it's just the sit.
Yes. This is another reason why I have to go back in November. I have to pick up something.
Okay.
Okay. So years ago, you started your Paris content being penniless in Paris, if I'm going to throw it all the way back.
Oh,
right?
Yes.
But that's not what we're claiming anymore.
No.
We are Paris chic code.
Period. And we did a stark, pivot from that. I know, again, as she just said, I'm a Bay Area girly, so I am going to keep it real. When I moved to Paris, there was no plan, right? It was like, okay, this is what I want to do, and I'm going to be here 6 months. It ended up being 10 years. So when I say I got it out the mud, I got it out the mud, okay? And it, I really did start off penniless in Paris, trying to figure things out. And probably like 2 years in, everything changed for me. Like opportunities just kept coming my way. They continue to come my way. So yeah, we pivoted to Paris Chic Code and fully basked in the luxury that I created for my life in Paris. And I love this for me.
Yes. What did that luxury look like? Tell us about your life in Paris and how that was different from what your life would have looked like if you'd stayed in California during that period of time.
Okay. So I moved to Paris from New York.
Oh, I always forget that. Yes.
Okay, so I was in New York for about 6 years, and New York was rough. New York was so rough for me, even though like I was making a lot of money in New York, I just didn't have time. Mm-hmm. And that has always been a stickler for me. Like I have done so many different interviews, and people always ask me what luxury is to me. I always say it is the luxury of time. I can buy another bag. I can buy more expensive clothes. I don't care about that. I want to be able to do what I want to do when I want to do it for the most part. If it's not 100%, at least 75%. So in New York, even though I was doing very well, I was exhausted and I couldn't really enjoy the fruits of my labor. Whereas I moved to Paris, I made probably half of my salary and had so much more time. I mean, you could not pay me 10 years ago, you could not pay me to believe that I'd be living in Paris. I'd be vacationing in like Saint-Tropez as a single woman, right? I'm spending summers in the south of France, gallivanting all over Italy on a salary that was half of what I made in New York. You couldn't pay me to believe that I'd be able to do that. But I had the time. I have, in Paris, a support system. I like to describe, some people will argue with this, but I like to describe, France as a socialist country. And for the most part, it is. I know I'm going to have healthcare. I know I'm going to have union representation. I know if I decide to leave, I'm going to have a great severance, So you can take more risk when you have a network and something to fall back on in place. And I just never felt like that in New York,
Okay. Now, for someone who Paris, for a lot of women,
okay,
a lot of people in general, Paris kind of feels like a fairy tale, right? Like you go and it's so chic and you have to go at the right time and the clothes and the this. What, and I know, I know that it's part of your life now. Right. But like, give us the real deal.
Okay.
On moving to France and moving to Paris.
The real deal is this: Paris is difficult.
Okay.
The weather is not the best. It's so funny. I have so many clients that, we start off at Paris and they're like, they're like, I really want to move to Paris. And then somehow they take a trip to the South and they be like, girl, okay. Paris, look, I'm going to Nice, right? So many of my clients switch up and they're like, I'm going south for the sun. Paris can be very hard. And my theory, this may sound crazy. My theory is because of the lack of sun, you have a cold city sometimes, right? Especially when you're moving there as an adult. If someone in their, let's say 40s or 50s, Usually people establish a network and friendships that happens in college, right? And at the first job, but the first job that you have, you establish those long-term friendships. Whereas when you're coming as a mature woman and maybe you may be a little introverted, sometimes it can be difficult. It requires a lot of effort to establish a network, establish friendships. You know, the French are, while polite, can be a very cold demographic, right? So it's difficult. It's not easy. It takes a long time to navigate the language, navigate the city, and most importantly, like establish true friendships. Like most of my friends are white women in Paris. And no disrespect to my white girlies. I love white women. However, as a Black woman, I need other Black women. You know what I mean? And that's how I found myself coming back to California and the Bay Area more, because of my squad that is here, my squad of Black women here who lift me up. I just was never able to get that in Paris, which is a huge problem for me as a person who just loves women, you know?
Yes, you are a girl's girl, right? And you are a team and a team player, a team person, a community-minded person,
yes,
another person.
Yes, I am, and I needed that.
You keep sending the girlies that are coming to you to Nice, so
the girlies are going in.
You could be building your own squad, and you like
you listen. I might join them. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, you know, I love Paris, but like I said, I need more sun. Nice just makes more sense. Yeah. However, you can't get the luxury and the shopping like you can in Paris, right? So go ahead.
How far of a back and forth is that?
It's far. It's like going from, I don't know, New York to Miami.
Okay.
So I would say, I think the flight is like maybe an hour, right? You can also take a train. It's like 6 hours. So it's literally going from like the north of the country to the south, right? But stark difference. You're on the Mediterranean Sea. You guys have been there. It's gorgeous. However, much slower, right? You know, Florida all year is very different than, you know what I mean? So because I need more sun, we're trying to figure it out. Look, it may be 3 places. It may be California, Paris, and the south of France. We're going to figure it out and just go with it.
So you got to France and you put together, you said that you went there without really, you know, we'll see what happens. But yes, you put together an awesome combination of your skill set and your desires, right? So you had the fashion background.
Yes.
And you went to Paris and you became the person I know on the internet who was talking about fashion in Paris and Hermes, and here's the sale, and here's the thing, get my newsletter, right?
Yes.
Because you meshed together the two things, what you need, what you had, plus what you wanted.
Yes.
And that's a really amazing lesson. And you're still doing that now.
I'm still doing it now. I don't know how it came together. I like most American girlies, what happens is we get to Paris and we end up falling in love with the French guy. For some women, it works out. Some women, it doesn't. Mine didn't work out, right? So I needed some sort of outlet, creative outlet. Mm-hmm. And we're talking now, I was like, it's 10 years ago, so younger. And I don't think then I realized that I always have to have something creative going. It doesn't necessarily have to be big, right? But I need to be doing something creative that's not necessarily a part of the 9 to 5 that I'm going to every day. So Paris Chic Code, or Penniless in Paris at the time, became that. Like, I wanted to share with women, look, you can do this, and all of the stars and planets don't need to be aligned for you to be able to do it. You know what I mean? That's a lot. I remember a lot of my clients would be like, oh, I'm ready to book a session with you, and Latrice, I'm ready to get this thing going in 2035. And I'm like, girl, we got 12 months, right? Anything that you need to do in the United States, you can do from another country. The internet is worldwide. Like any bills you need to pay, any work you need to do, it's much easier, especially now it's much easier, after COVID. But I wanted to share with women that, hey, I'm not wealthy and I didn't have a plan. The stars were not aligned. I did this by myself. I spoke only a little bit of the language, and I'm here figuring it out, and look at what I've done.
Mhm.
It's so strange. Black women are so used to having to be perfect,
Yes.
be better than perfect,
Yes.
that it's really hard to help someone understand that no, you can just, it doesn't, things don't have to be perfect. You don't have, and you don't have to be the like premier whatever. You can create a new life. You can redesign a new life for yourself based on what you already know how to do.
Yes.
You don't have to reach for the stars in terms of being the top performer or whatever. You can be a person who takes what you know, you show people what you know, you can make money from that. You can make a living from that. You can make a whole life. You have a whole business.
Yes.
What things that you love to do, and introducing those things to other people that didn't require you to be like Anna Wintour.
Exactly. Right. And listen, my thing was, if it becomes like huge, great. But if not, that's okay. My thing was, I initially, right, and still to this day, like, I wanted to show women, like, you can do this. You don't have to be super skinny. You don't have to be a model. You don't have to be, you know, outrageously gorgeous to live in Paris and live a beautiful life. And most importantly, you don't have to be all of those things to have access, right? Like, I remember being at a shopping event and meeting the first lady of France, right? I never spent a dime in that store, right? But they were like, we want you to come. And I was like, okay. What I did in Paris is I showed up as myself. And I will say that city and country has embraced me, you know, wholeheartedly, 100%. I never tried to put on. I was always me. And I have the tables and rooms that I have been in, it's just, you know, just incredible.
Yes.
I want to back this up a little bit for someone who's like, okay, but I'm not Latrice, right? But I'm not Latrice. So, like, for a woman who is watching this, who is thinking like, yes, it sounds like a fairy tale, and I want that fairy tale, right? Okay. Like, I want the fairy tale. Give it to me. What would you say would be because you do this, right? You helped clients along the way. What would you say is the first step in like figuring out what their life might be like in France?
The first step, I would say, is figuring out how to spend some time in the country before you make the move. So for example, in Paris, you can literally live in Paris or in France for 90 days on your passport. That is a good amount of time for you to figure out, you know what, I can do this. I like this, right? I always recommend that my clients try to spend rent an Airbnb. It doesn't have to even be a whole apartment. Rent a room. In fact, I prefer people to rent a room because that way you can build a relationship with your host, right? You can talk to your host. You can build a relationship with your host, and that host will likely introduce you to their friends and teach you how to do things like a local, right? You want to have the local experience as much as possible. And the way to have the local experience is you have to know French people. You have to kind of build some sort of relationship with French people. So I would say spending at least 90 days in the country, living like a local. Now, when you come back, you can rent a fabulous apartment in the 16th and live a luxury lifestyle and all of that. But you still want to start off like, I am just a regular person here. Every day I'm going to go to the boulangerie and I'm going to buy my bread. I'm going to do a walk. I'm going to go to the gym. Everything that you do at home, you want to do those 90 days while you are in Paris.
Okay. All right. For those 90 days, how much French do I need?
Listen, I'm going to you know what? Back in the day when I first moved, like people they know French people, they know English. But they were like, bah, on est en la France, madame. Faut que vous parlez en français. So, you know, we had to speak French because they would get mad. But now it's different. Like it seems like they are very excited about, you know, practicing their English with you. Everyone that you know, encounter in the grocery store or at the boulangerie or somewhere is usually going to speak English. So you can totally get by in the city not knowing French. It was not like this 10 years ago. Okay.
When you haven't been there in a few months. I don't know, Latrice. I don't know. I happen to have passed through France, through Paris, not too long ago. And I know those people understood. There were people who I was in contact with who I know definitely understood what I was saying and understood English and refused to help me at all in anything except for French. And I don't speak French, right? I don't know. It has a reputation of being a place where it's a little more difficult if you don't speak the language.
It is a little bit more difficult. However, in Paris, you have to remember that Paris is an international city. Now, if you are traveling through these small towns in France, they're going to be like, yeah, we're not speaking. No, that's not happening. On est en France, on parle en français. That's what they're going to say. But if you are in Paris, which is more of an international city, and you're speaking to someone younger, usually they're going to help you. The older generation, they tend to be more gatekeepers of the language and outright refuse, unless you say, bonjour, s'il vous plaît, and then they'll help you, right? You look like you're pleading with them.
Okay.
It's a little bit of begging.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's your eyelashes.
Okay.
And they'll be like, okay, we'll help you.
What's it like being a Black girl in Paris?
Okay. Being a Black girl in Paris, I'm gonna keep it real. Being a Black girl in Paris Paris is an international city, right? Paris loves, or France loves, Black Americans, right? When they see Black Americans, they are like, Michelle Obama, Beyonce, LeBron James.
But
the tea is,
I know what's coming.
The tea is anyone else from the diaspora doesn't necessarily get that same respect. And that's just real talk, especially the born and raised, French Africans that are there. And they're not French Africans, they're just French. Let's be clear, right? But the African population that's there, it's difficult for them vis-a-vis a Black American person. It's so bad to where I know which situations I need to let you know that I'm American. Yeah. I know which situations I need to speak French in. It's a trip. Dave Chappelle did a show in Paris. He and I had a whole discussion during his show about being Black American. Yeah. Being Black or being a Black American in Paris. And he said to someone in the audience had kind of was snarky with him and said something like, oh, your name is weird, blah, blah, blah. And his response was, but I get a lot of respect here. I'm a guest here, right? Mm-hmm. And that is the attitude, unfortunately. I think it is hard for the Black population in France, especially Black women, born there, because you don't have a lot of representation on television and media and things like that. I think that's very important. Whereas here in the United States, we get that. I see Black women on television. I see Black women thriving all around me, right? So I don't necessarily need that. And I didn't need that when I moved there. Okay. But when I think about a young Black girl growing up there, right? And never seeing successful Black women, never seeing Black people and Black families on television, that I can't imagine raising a child there.
Okay. Right. Yeah. It's funny that around the world, if you are traveling on an American passport and you sound American and you look American to people, we kind of forget that like our Black experience isn't a universal Black experience. Like I was in Puerto Vallarta and I was giving them my best Spanish at this resort, my best Spanish, and I was getting terrible service. And I was like, wait, I need to get a little ugly American. And so I went straight to English, and I got my service level increased dramatically once they realized I was not Afro-Latino.
Yes.
I am an American who speaks English.
Yes.
Everything changed. And I was like, I am the same person. I'm asking for the same things in the same way. I'm just using a different language. I just now started refusing to speak Spanish, and the service is better. And that's wild to me.
It's very wild. And I tell people all the time, Black women raised, Black women with blue passports, we don't necessarily get to feel the privilege that white people feel until we leave.
That's right.
And it's experiencing it is like, Listen, I went to France and I was like, oh, okay. So now I see why they'll never give up their privilege in the United States if this is how the treatment is every day.
Right. If that's the difference, right? If you see that much of a difference.
Oh my gosh, stark difference.
No
stark
wonder.
difference. You know, the opportunities again that I have had is likely because I am an American woman. You know what I mean? I have African friends there that have, you know, French African, okay? So African friends there that have not had the same opportunities that I have had as someone who is an immigrant. I'm an immigrant there. And the tables that I've been able to sit at and the access that I've had in this country is baffling.
Yeah.
You know, as someone who has only been there 10 years compared and can speak the language, but cannot speak the language like a native, right?
Right.
Compared to someone, you know, Black that has grown up there, speaks fluent French. The only difference is that their parents are Africans. The fact that they have not had the same opportunities or access sometimes is baffling.
Is there an opportunity for you to like tell people, do you see what's happening here? Right? Is there an opportunity for you to be like, I'm not saying to take up the struggle, but I'm saying like, y'all see that, right? Do y'all see the difference? Do you see what's happening?
I will say the younger population, our age and younger, you know, let's say Generation X, right? And younger, they know what time it is. They identify, they recognize, you know, what's happening. When you get to like the boomers and the older population, those are the ones that are usually, and the same in the United States, right? Yes. Those are the ones that are usually like, yeah, no, you know, on est en France, and in France is equal for everyone.
Okay. I'd like to ask the part B of the question of what's it like being a Black woman in a place? The part B of the question is always, so, okay, but what about dating? Okay, so we've talked about being a Black woman in Paris. But what is it like being a Black woman dating in Paris? Because what I recall walking through the streets is that men would just pass me and be like, bonjour, ma jolie. And I'd be like, oui, right?
Hello, yes.
Yes.
You know what? Some women, I was in a relationship for a long time in Paris, like 5 years. Some women have great dating experience. Well, mine was kind of good. I mean, I got off the plane and I was kind of cuffed, right? That wasn't what I wanted, but that's kind of what happened. Some women have great experiences. Some women have great experiences with like Italian men who are in France, right? You definitely have to be a person that puts yourself out there. Okay. You want to be on the apps. You got to be outside. And listen, a man is going to compliment you. One thing about them, they are going to, across demographic, white, Black, Arab, they are going to, if they like you, they're going to be like, bonjour, madame. They're going to say something, which is nice, right? Well, yes. Nice for some women. I still like it. Yeah. So, I think it's definitely a positive experience for women who are comfortable putting themselves out there. I remember, this is really important too. I remember a friend of mine coming to visit, and she was in a place like she was going through a bad breakup. One thing about Paris that I love, and France in general, is that the PDA is just like off the charts. You see people kissing everywhere. Everything you see in the movies is true, right? It's a romantic city, and people have no qualms, or couples have no qualms about showing their affection and their love for one another. And I love that. But I think it also has a lot to do with the space that you're in. Because while I was in a relationship, and if I'm outside, I see it everywhere. I see PDA everywhere. I see love everywhere. But my friend who was going through a breakup, she didn't even see it. She didn't even see it. So it has a lot to do with your perception and how you see things. It's definitely, I mean, listen, let's just be clear. Nowhere in the world is it hard for us to get a man. Okay, let's be clear. They come like buses. However, I will say, if you are in a space open to receive, right, and open to dating, you know, across demographics, then Paris is, I mean, you can have the time of your life, honey. You can have a date every night if you want.
Dating, but are they relationship men? Are they lock it down men, or are they perpetual daters?
Okay, I do feel like French men are lock it down men, especially French African men. They're like, listen, we're not playing these games. If I'm calling you and spending time with you, like, you are my whole woman. right?
Okay.
So I definitely feel like French as a culture are usually lock it down men, but you do have, it is also like a promiscuous free love kind of culture, right? So I think it might kind of depend on the men.
Yeah.
Okay.
One thing, they love, they love relationships, but they are not closed off against having extramarital affairs and things like that. So it just depends on who you get.
Lock it down is like a loose, it's not locked. It's
No, locked for you.
Well,
locked for you, not locked for them.
Never locked for them. It's never
for
locked.
you.
It's never locked for them.
Okay, so as on the dating front, do
Okay.
you prefer dating in the Bay Area or in Paris?
Okay. I'm going to be honest. I am a Bay Area girly.
Mm-hmm.
Ride or die for where I'm from. You guys know
Mhm.
that about me. So I love a Bay Area man.
Okay.
It's just the swag is different, right?
Mhm.
The swag is different, and the masculinity is different, and that's what I like. And I like what I like. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I find Frenchmen to be very soft, and there's nothing wrong with soft. But and it's probably because where I'm from, right? I need to know if we go out and something happens, you are going to take care of everything, right? Whereas my friends that are with Frenchmen, they're the one, they got to roll up their sleeves with their man. I'm not.
It's also probably the Frenchmen are like, we go out and what happens? Like,
That's true. Nothing's going to happen.
Why do you expect a fight, right? Like,
Right. So they're in uncharted territory. Whereas I'm like, what if something happens? And they're like, what's going to happen? Okay, maybe we'll yell at each other, but that's it. Nothing is going to happen.
Yeah.
So you are absolutely right about that. Like they're not in those situations, right? French people, they will talk, right? But they are not it's not going to be a knockdown, drag out in the street.
Mm-hmm. No one's got a gun, right? Like,
exactly. Whereas in the Bay, you just have no idea what's gonna happen when you walk outside.
I remember this time. So I'm so sorry. Time I was in a club in the Bay I think I was on Lakeshore, so you know where I was.
Okay, I do.
And this guy, something happened. All I know is I turned around and a man was walking in the club with a tire iron in his hand, swinging it, and I was like,
yeah,
it's time to back away and slowly get towards. Meanwhile, that's probably not happening.
Listen, Sheeta, that's just another weekend in the Bay. Like, what are you?
That's just how we close the club down. My cousin years ago. I went to the club with my cousin somewhere in the Bay Area. They live closer to Sacramento.
Okay,
and he's the one who started the fight. That was just how we ended the night. They have a fight, and then we get in the car and we go home.
And we go home, and the next day, and look, the next day we go to church on Sunday.
Done.
That's
Done.
forgotten.
So it's a different world, and so maybe the softer men might help heal you from that trauma of having to always feel protected,
like something is going to happen. But don't we need to feel protected, even though we know something is not going to happen?
But I think it comes down to the same question that like we've heard so much, and it's like men, at least online, men saying like, if men weren't here, who would protect you? But it's also like, protect you from what? So if the men in general are a little softer and they can't protect, you don't feel like they can protect you, I think the question is also, what do you need protecting from when you're with them?
That is a very valid question. And you know what? I'm going to have to sit with that. But for now, I'm going to take my Bay Area. I'm going to take my Bay Area protector.
No,
all day.
But you're going to be okay.
All day.
Okay. All right.
Oh, that's funny.
All right. So we've talked about you needing something creative, and you helping women move to or relocate to Paris, but we haven't said specifically what you do. So tell us specifically what you do and who you do it for. Who would be a good client for you?
Okay.
And you can mention more than one thing.
And
you can mention more than one thing if you want to.
Okay, I will. So So what I do is I consult women on how to move abroad. I help them figure out which visa is best for them to move abroad. We can do location, like where do you want to live in Paris? But mostly it's also getting them into the mindset of believing that they can do this. Again, like I said initially, I have a lot of women clients that are like, it is my dream. And 2035, Latrice, girl, I'm making it happen, right? And I'm like, and I'm having to coach them down to be like, okay, can we do 2025 and not 2035? So getting them in a mindset of, you know, leaving their families and leaving everything they know behind to try in Paris, right? Also helping them realize that, you know, if Paris is not your place and if it doesn't work out, it's not the end of the world. There's so many other countries and places that you can try, right? So, you know, at least you get out there and you see if you like it. And if not, you go somewhere else. You go back home, you regroup, and you pick another place, eeny, meeny, miny, mo on the globe, and you try that place, right? So that, you know, consulting on how much money that they think that they will need, according to their lifestyle when they move to Paris, and, you know, helping them get acclimated, getting them set up, you know, with everything that one would need in their apartment, like Wi-Fi and all that, because now that is something when you call and you try to set those things up, no one's going to speak to you in English. They always speak to you in French. So I help with that as well. And then probably within the last year or so, I started doing like personal shopping because I wanted to tap into another creative resources. I was getting invited to all these different events. And I was like, you know what? I should secure products for women in the States. So I personal shop for clients. I am a beneficiary of the coveted Hermes sale invite that I get invited to twice a year. And so I personal shop for the girlies. And then Stephanie, your the last part of your question was who was my type of client, right?
Yeah, I'm asking, like, what if a man tries to book a call with you?
Listen, I'm leaning fully into it. I'm leaning fully into a man, you know, utilizing my services to move to Paris. He also needs to have a certain mindset. He also needs to have a certain amount of resources. He also needs to figure out which visa would be most conducive to him living in this country. So absolutely. But I think I've never had a man client though.
Okay.
How location specific is your consulting work? Is it just Paris? Is it France? Is it Europe? Is it the world? What are we doing?
You know what? It started off as Paris, hence Paris Chic Code. And then it became France because, like I said, so many of the girlies start off in Paris. And then they're like, okay, for holiday, I'm going to go to the south of France. And they're like, girl, you know, so it's now France specific because just because I mean, the rules in Paris are the same rules and regulations in, I don't know, Nice, right? The country is the country. So it's more so, and because I speak the language, I've been dealing more with just France specific. I've been thinking about branching out to other countries, but because I don't have citizenship in those other countries, I don't necessarily know the law as well. What I can help someone with is preparing your mindset, what you need to do to be successful in another country, whatever you are. I can help you with that. As far as what the laws and visa requirements, that I can't help in countries outside France.
Okay.
Wonderful.
And if someone wants to work with you, how do they reach you?
You can reach me several places. You can reach me at our website, my website, at parischiccode.com. I also have a newsletter on Substack, Paris Chic Code, that tells you all about the musings of a Black American expat. I keep it all the way real in my newsletter, just like I am here on this video. Where else? You can find me on Instagram at Paris Chic Code Official. And that's about it.
That's right.
So we'll put those links in the description so you can see them below, because
thank you.
Once I know that now you've seen Latrice, you want more of Latrice.
You have to have more of me. You have to have more. Like, who wouldn't want more of me?
Exactly right. That's right. Also, in the description of this video, you'll find a quiz. Maybe you have really no idea where in the world you might want to start first investigating, right? So we
Yes.
have quiz in the description of this video that'll help point you to a place to get started with your move abroad considerations. That's all. It's linked in the description of the video.
Yes, pick a place and try it out, you know. And if you don't like it, try another place. Why not?
That's right. That's right. Latrice was one of the first, a speaker in the first Exodus Summit 5 years ago. The next Exodus Summit, the 5th annual Exodus Summit, is happening October 11th through 14th. It's all online. It is a virtual summit for Black women and their families who want to make an exit from the United States. If you want to make a quick exit because you don't think things are going to go well in January, or just because you want to experience some different weather for a different part of the year, please, we hope that we'll see you at the Exodus Summit, which is online, October 11th through 14th. Again, link in the description of the video.
Yes. Okay. And I think it's so important where we started with Latrice. I don't know how much of the beginning we caught, but we started with Latrice when she was talking about the fact that, like, it looks like she's going to be living in 2 countries, because your move abroad doesn't have to look like anybody else's move abroad.
That's right.
Latrice only wants to be in Paris in late spring and fall.
That's it.
After 10 winters.
That's it.
10 winters. She said, I'm going to figure out how to do it.
Right? I'm going to figure out how to do it. Latrice wants to be in Paris during the months that or during the seasons that you said, and also during the Hermes sale. There's no other reason. That's it. That's it. And but this is also after 10 years of living there consistently, 12 months out of the year, and now realizing in the next decade and chapter of my life,
yes,
how I want to pivot and what I need to rearrange to make myself happier, right? And that is no longer being in one place for 12 months out of the year. That's no longer being in my chosen dream place. I did the dream. I loved it there. I still love it there. But now I don't need it 12 months out of the year.
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
So between me and you and anybody else watching now, I'm working on my second location.
Okay.
It's a secret though.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. We need a second place.
It feels like it's time. Like, I love Mexico City. I love being here. I love being here year round. But like, I might get itchy. I want to be in the streets.
Yeah.
It's a great base for this part of the world, but there are other parts of the world, and they miss me.
Yes. Right. And that is what I'm talking about. Like, I think there's something about, like, when you spend a certain amount of time in the place, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, I've done that. Now I want to go on to the next place. I don't necessarily want to leave this place behind. Mm-hmm. I'm going to just figure out how to incorporate it. It was the same for me in New York. I loved New York. I still love the energy. When I travel to New York, I'm like, I love it here. I still have an apartment there, right? But my thing is, I don't need to be here. Mm-hmm. I don't want to live in this hustle and bustle. I want to be able to pop in and out of this apartment at my leisure. And that is what I've done for myself.
Okay, good. That's amazing.
Wonderful.
Latrice, I'm so glad you were able to join us today.
Thank you for inviting me. Always
love you. And so,
And next month, October. Listen, don't flake like the last time.
She's acting like she didn't just say that. She just said that.
Wait, the last time it was like, she was, girl, I'm still in the bed. I'm like, you know what? I was so excited.
I hit her up like, girl, because I got back right when I got back from Australia. So I was exhausted.
Yeah. Okay.
I was like, baby, this time I don't know morning, night, noon. There was one day I didn't get out of bed until like 3:00. I went downstairs, got a burger, and got right back in bed.
Yeah.
Listen,
I think that was the day I was supposed to see her.
The stars are going to align, and maybe one day all 3 of us will be in one place, because we just have to be.
I think, Latrice, you and I can make it happen. Stephanie be acting funny.
Okay.
Like, she goes places and don't be telling me. She'll be like, I'll hear about it on her channel. She'll be like, or someone else will be like, I got a text. I swear to you, Latrice, I got a text earlier this year that was like, are you going to Ecuador too? And I was like, 2? What are you talking about? And they were like, well, Stephanie said on the channel there's an Exodus meetup, and I was like, what?
You might be onto something, because I think I didn't know that Stephanie was in France until she was like, I'm in Paris. Do you have time to link up? And this is my schedule. I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to fit into
I thought we were ganging up on Rashida. I didn't.
No,
You're right.
Turn.
You see how-
It's not my turn.
No.
You see, look at the loyalty. But let me say, Stephanie, I enjoy so much your quips on Instagram when you're like, I don't care. Tell me about your dreams.
I don't care about your purpose. That's
I don't care about your purpose. I said that door, Stephanie. I love it. I love to see it.
Thank you. You're really amazing. You're an amazing person. You're like you really are a girl's girl. You're a super supportive and super loving and
Thank
super
you.
wonderful person. And we love you. We appreciate always every opportunity that we get to hang out with you. I don't know that we close the video out, so I'm gonna chop this in there.
Okay.
We appreciate every opportunity that we get to talk with you. And so
likewise,
until we get to hug you in real life.
I know.
It's been 5 years. We've never hugged.
It's crazy. It's crazy. I'm going to tell you, I am always bigging up Exodus Summit and plugging it wherever I can. I think it is amazing. When you guys